Why did one director intentionally sabotage the sequel to his surprise hit? From a lighthearted high school comedy to a brutal tale of revenge, these beloved super films deserved super follow-ups, but they never ended up getting them. Based on the comic book creation of Todd McFarlane, the 1997 movie Spawn follows assassin Al Simmons, who's double-crossed by his boss and murdered. That's when he makes a deal with the demon Malbolgia to return to the world he knew, but in exchange, he must be transformed and lead Hell's army.
If you fail me, you will die. Avenge your murder.
Spawn earned back more than double its $40 million budget and went on to become a cult hit, but that wasn't enough for New Line Cinema to be interested in a sequel. In the meantime, McFarlane brought the character to the small screen in an Emmy-winning series for HBO. Since then, McFarlane has been working to get another Spawn movie made, one which he envisions as more of a reboot than sequel. In a 2005 interview with IGN, McFarlane explained a new vision for an R-rated feature in which Spawn's role would be similar to that of the shark in Jaws, a destructive, mostly unseen entity whose presence looms large in the storyline. In 2013, McFarlane revealed he was still working on a Spawn reboot, divulging that he was supposed to have a script ready by the end of that year. Another update came in 2022 when Jamie Foxx, who had since become attached to Star, told comicbook.com that the long-gestating project would be comparable to Todd Phillips' reimagining of the clown Prince of Crime in 2019's Joker. As fun as that sounds, the pieces don't seem to be moving into place very quickly. When it comes to comic book anti-heroes, they don't come much nastier than Marvel's Punisher. Frank Castle made his first live-action appearance when he was played by Dolph Lundgren in the 1989 direct-to-VHS movie The Punisher. Thomas Jane assumed the role in a 2004 movie of the same name, which brought in a respectable worldwide box office gross of $54.7 million on a budget of $33 million. While fans expected a sequel, what came next was essentially a reboot, with Ray Stevenson playing the role in 2008's The Punisher Warzone. Jon Bernthal also ended up taking on the character in a subsequent Netflix series. So why was there a reboot and not a sequel? According to Jane, there initially were plans for him to star in a second Punisher movie, but they ended up falling through. As he revealed during an appearance at Fanboy Expo Knoxville, a sequel was in development with rocker and horror filmmaker Rob Zombie attached as director. The team at Marvel, Jane said, weren't on board with Zombie's vision, so they went in search of another director. They finally settled on Walter Hill, an industry veteran who'd helmed such hits as 48 Hours and The Warriors. A big fan of Hill's work, Jane was thrilled, until Marvel bafflingly went in yet another direction and let him go. When Marvel suggested a replacement director whom Jane felt wasn't up to snuff, he walked away, and that was curtains for any possibility of The Punisher 2. Before he played Deadshot in 2016's ill-reviewed but profitable Suicide Squad, Will Smith starred in a different kind of superhero movie. In 2008's Hancock, his superhuman character of the same name is more interested in getting publicly intoxicated than helping people in danger. Even when he does try to save the day, he ends up leaving parts of Los Angeles destroyed in his wake.
What, you want, a cookie? Down on my face. What?
You heard me?
A big-budget production that reportedly cost $150 million to make, Hancock proved to be a worldwide smash, with international box office receipts exceeding $629 million. With numbers like that, Hancock 2 would seem to be a no-brainer. So why didn't it happen? Well, it almost did. In September 2009, director Peter Berg announced that a sequel was in the works with Smith and co-stars Charlize Theron and Jason Bateman all on board. Writers were hired, with Berg telling MTV News, "Hopefully we'll have a script soon. It's something everybody's anxious to get involved with." Just a few months later, however, Berg was singing a very different tune. He was reported as telling the press, "You'll never meet a group of people who will have a harder time agreeing on anything." He seemed insistent that Hancock 2 would eventually get made, but as of 2023, the alcoholic hero still hasn't returned. Hidden among the glut of theatrical superhero flicks in 2012, including The Avengers, The Amazing Spider-Man, The Dark Knight Rises, and several more, was Josh Trank's Chronicle, which put a very different spin on the genre. The found-footage film follows three teenage boys who discover a mysterious substance that gives them telekinetic powers, ultimately setting them on a dark path. Made for just $12 million, Chronicle became a surprise hit by grossing more than $126 million. Director Josh Trank was quickly tapped to reinvigorate another superhero franchise, but his 2015 version of Fantastic Four didn't have any of his previous features' low-budget charm. Meanwhile, Fox was proceeding with a Chronicle sequel without Trank's involvement. With surprising honesty, he admitted in 2020 that he intentionally tried to derail the project, as he didn't have much faith that it would succeed. The director told Polygon, "I made it difficult for them to set up meetings. I was dodgy about stuff. I did a lot of things, because I really didn't ever want to see Chronicle 2 happen. That was my worst nightmare. First of all, I'm not doing it. Second, if somebody else does it, then you know it's going to be a piece of The following year, however, producer John Davis confirmed that a Chronicle sequel was moving forward regardless. He told Forbes, "We're working on Chronicle 2 right now, and I think it's going to be great. We're going to tell it from the female point of view." There's the Avengers, the X-Men, the Justice League, and then there's the Mystery Men. One of the weirdest superhero teams in history made the leap from Flaming Carrot Comics to the big screen in 1999. Members include expert digger the Shoveler, the cutlery-throwing Blue Raja, the bowling ball-wielding Bowler, the inexperienced Invisible Boy, the flatulent Spleen, and Mr. Furious, who gets really, really angry. After the actual superhero Captain Amazing is kidnapped, it's up to them to take on the evil mastermind Casanova Frankenstein.
We've got a blind date with Destiny.
And it looks like she's ordered the lobster.
Despite a star-studded cast and the presence of Smash Mouth's All-Star, Mystery Men was a box office bomb that made back less than half of its budget. That pretty much quashed any hopes for a sequel. Or did it? In the years since its release, Mystery Men has evolved into something of a cult favorite, with its ever-expanding fan base clamoring for a sequel. Actor Kel Mitchell, who played the boy who can only turn invisible when nobody is watching, has been vocal about his desire to expand the Mystery Men universe. He even has some ideas for what a sequel, or prequel, might entail. When asked to share his pitch, Mitchell told comicbook.com, "Let's just say origin story. You know, we were the first superhero team-up before the Avengers, and all those superhero movies started doing that. Unfortunately, the gang may have aged a bit too much to play younger versions of their heroes, and tragically, Paul Rubens is no longer around to reprise his role." Years before Disney bought Marvel, the House of Mouse dipped its toe into the superhero genre by combining it with a high school comedy. 2005's Sky High takes place largely at a floating academy where young superhumans are sent to hone their skills. As the son of two world-famous heroes, freshman Will Stronghold is already feeling the pressure of his family legacy, even though his powers haven't quite kicked in yet. It's an exciting take on a classic coming-of-age story, and Will's struggle to find himself ended up resonating with kids everywhere. Disney's brightly colored family flick was something of an anomaly compared to other superhero movies of the era, like Batman Begins. Still, Sky High performed well at the box office, bringing in close to $90 million internationally, nearly 3 times its modest budget of $35 million. According to director Mike Mitchell, Disney initially intended to spin off Sky High as a TV series, and the entire teenage cast was on board. But when Sky High wasn't the 9-digit mega blockbuster that Disney had apparently hoped for, those plans ended up getting shelved. Still, there was enough faith in the potential for a sequel that Mitchell and some writers conceived of a second film, Save You, in which the characters would graduate high school and hone their skills further at superhero college. Mitchell said of Sky High, "I am hugely proud of it, and they should make it a franchise." Based on a character with a history dating back to 1936, the Green Hornet was adapted for television in the 1960s, with Van Johnson playing the titular masked vigilante and martial arts legend Bruce Lee as his manservant Kato. After Iron Man and The Dark Knight kickstarted a superhero boom at the box office, the character was revived in 2011. This time, comedy star Seth Rogen took on the title role, joined by Jay Cho as Kato.
"Kato, I want you to take my hand, and I want you to come with me on this adventure."
"I'll go with you, but I don't want to touch you."
With a budget of $120 million, a script from Rogen and longtime collaborator Evan Goldberg, and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind director Michel Gondry at the helm, the Green Hornet earned mixed reviews and $227 million at the box office. Given all that, a sequel shouldn't have been out of the question, but $227 million apparently wasn't enough. Producer Neil Moritz told The Hollywood Reporter, "The movie did almost $250 million and was actually very well liked, but we made the movie for too much money. If I had done it in a tax rebate state and not done 3D, it would have been considered a huge financial success for the studio. So we're not making a sequel right now." While a sequel may be out of the cards, plans for a reboot have been floating about for some time. In 2020, the rights to the property were obtained by Amaja Entertainment, with plans to develop a new movie. The Phantom is nearly as old as the Green Hornet, having made his first appearance in a newspaper comic of the same name in 1936. Paramount brought the masked crime fighter to the screen in 1996, with future Titanic star Billy Zane putting on the unmistakable purple suit. While Zane had signed up for 2 sequels, the low-budget film's old-timey vibe and so-so script did little to win over either critics or regular moviegoers. That resulted in middling reviews and an anemic box office take of just $17 million that cratered any possibility of a franchise. More than a decade later, the Phantom re-emerged, on the small screen this time, when the Sci-Fi Network greenlit a TV miniseries that debuted the following year. Ryan Carnes of Desperate Housewives fame took over the role with plans that the miniseries, promoted by the network as a 4-hour movie event, would serve as a backdoor pilot for a full-fledged show. Soft ratings and poor reviews ensured that didn't happen, and the Phantom faded once again. Over the years, rumors have occasionally emerged of a reboot called The Phantom Legacy, but those plans never quite came to fruition. Still, Zane has expressed interest in returning to the role. As he told comicbook.com, "To be honest, a Phantom return would be quite interesting. 20 years later, it's a father-to-son business and a bit of a handoff. So right out of the comic universe, I'd say that character would be a hoot." Boasting a retro Art Deco-inspired look and Billy Campbell in the title role, Disney's The Rocketeer zoomed into theaters in 1991 and promptly took a big old nosedive. The story of a cocky pilot who uses a prototype jetpack to take on Nazis flopped at the box office, earning $46.7 million on a budget of slightly less. Even though plans were in place for a sequel, those numbers essentially quashed Disney's ambitious plans for a franchise.
Prepare yourself for a shock. I'm the Rocketeer.
The Rocka who?
Fast forward 25 years, with The Rocketeer now viewed as an ahead-of-its-time cult favorite, and plans are being forged for a reboot. In 2016, The Hollywood Reporter claimed that a rebooted Rocketeer was in development, and in 2021, Deadline reported that David Oyelowo and his wife, Jessica, were producing a sequel, a Disney Plus movie to be titled The Return of the Rocketeer. This take on the character would potentially star the Selma actor as a former Tuskegee airman who takes over the jetpack as the new titular hero. Oyelowo offered an update in a 2022 interview with The Wrap, revealing that the script was still being written and there was no director attached as of yet. As he put it, "I was a big fan of the first one. Actually had the poster up in my bedroom as a teenager. It's a beloved property over at Disney, so to be trusted with it is a real privilege. We're going to take care of the fans of the original and hopefully bring in a whole new fan base." If a superhero movie ever seemed destined for success, it was Justice League. The 2017 film was the culmination of the DC Extended Universe, teaming up Henry Cavill's Superman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, and Ben Affleck's Batman. In the midst of production, director Zack Snyder and his wife, producer Deborah Snyder, were forced to exit the film to deal with a family tragedy. Joss Whedon, who directed The Avengers and its first sequel, was brought in to finish the movie and reshoot much of what Snyder had already filmed. The resulting movie proved to be a critical disaster and a box office flop, losing the studio approximately $60 million amid largely lousy reviews. After years of begging from fans, Snyder unveiled the long-awaited Snyder Cut of the movie, which debuted in 2021 on HBO Max. Gone were most of Whedon's comedic touches, as Snyder imbued the film with a darker tone, including a new scene featuring Affleck and Jared Leto as the Joker, reprising the role he originated in Suicide Squad. During a 2021 appearance at IGN FanFest, Snyder revealed that Justice League was originally intended to be a trilogy. While Snyder Cut fans may harbor hope that his planned sequels could be made, Snyder himself does not. When asked about DC Studios heads James Gunn and Peter Safran, Snyder said, "Warner Brothers has been aggressively anti-Snyder, if you will. What can I say? Clearly they're not interested in my take." Despite calls from fans to restore the Snyderverse, it seems that the director's time working with DC Studios has come to an end for now. These days, James Gunn is known for his trilogy of Guardians of the Galaxy movies and his role as co-head of Warner Brothers DC Studios. Back in 2000, he was still a few years away from breaking out as a director when he wrote the screenplay for The Specials, a quirky comedic take on the superhero genre. Starring Rob Lowe as the Weevil and Thomas Hayden Church as the Strobe, this low-budget indie is centered on a team of vulgar third-rate heroes.
When I first gained my superpowers,
Oh, Jesus! Nobody wants to hear your boring origin story!
While the film kind of came and went at the time, it remains a cult favorite among fans, and given Gunn's track record in the years that followed, could be ripe for a sequel. While Gunn has never discussed any plans for The Specials 2, he did open up about its origins during an appearance promoting the film at the 2000 edition of San Diego Comic-Con. He revealed that he would find himself more interested in superheroes' interpersonal dynamics than whatever battle they were facing at the time. As he put it, "I've also always been interested in people's jobs, and the fact that any job we have, whether it be a rock star or an actor or a film director or what, it ends up being a job, the same as working at a furniture store. In a lot of ways, The Specials is about that. They're superheroes, but they've gotten used to it. It's the same as working at the Gap." For years, pro wrestler turned actor Dwayne Johnson spoke about launching his own superhero franchise. In 2014, he confirmed that the hero that he'd be portraying, or rather the anti-hero, would be DC Comics' Black Adam. The film was a long time coming, and it finally hit theaters in October of 2022. Any doubts that Black Adam was intended to launch a multi-film franchise were laid to rest in a last-minute post-credit scene that featured Johnson's character encountering Henry Cavill's Superman himself. Fans could certainly be excused for assuming the scene was setting up an epic confrontation in a sequel. And even though critics were unenthused, the film's solid take at the box office of nearly $400 million worldwide seemed to guarantee a second film. But then an unexpected twist occurred. In October 2022, Peter Safran and James Gunn were tapped to head DC Studios. As it turned out, Gunn's vision for the future of the DC cinematic universe didn't include Cavill's return as Superman, or Johnson as Black Adam. During a 2023 sit-down with his friend and frequent co-star Kevin Hart, Johnson explained, "I think that Black Adam got caught in a vortex of new leadership. That will always be one of the biggest mysteries, I think, not only for me and us on our end, but also throughout our business." As Johnson predicted, the hierarchy of the DC universe did in fact change, but it wiped his version of Black Adam out of existence instead of putting him on top.